The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere, and this is Morning Espresso for Friday, January 2nd. Morning Espresso, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. We're heading into a weekend where the margins start to shrink. Chelsea, they're choosing their next direction. AFCON moving into the knockout rounds. Paris finally gets a derby back. And Serie A opens 2026 with 5 clubs separated by 4 points. Let's get into it. Let's start in London. Chelsea, they are moving quickly. Liam Rossignol is the leading contender to replace Enzo Maresca. And this isn't a panic move. It's really Chelsea doubling down on the model that they've chosen since the Clear Lake Capital Todd Bowley takeover. Rossignol's 41 years old. If he's appointed, he'd be among the youngest managers in the Premier League. But he's not unknown to Chelsea's leadership. He's worked inside the Blue Co structure at Strasbourg. He's impressed the hierarchy, and he's already established relationships with co-sporting directors Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley. That matters. Chelsea are not looking for a superstar manager here or going out and trying to find a savior somewhere in the marketplace. They're looking for someone who is aligned with their strategy. They want a head coach who fits into a broader leadership structure rather than standing above it. And I think if you connect the dots on how things fell with Enzo Maresca, it felt like he was outside of that structure, maybe by choice, maybe by just the way things worked out, but it didn't feel like he was in lockstep with the club, and especially over the last month. Chelsea wants someone to fit within this leadership model as opposed to being separate from it. Rossignol's work at Strasbourg, it fits the profile almost perfectly. First full season, he took a young team to Conference League qualification, has them competitive again this season in Ligue 1. The style, it's controlled possession, higher press layered on top, nothing dramatically different, nothing shocking from what was already being built under Maresca, not anything shocking in really kind of where the modern game is going. But the bigger tell is maybe how Rossignol manages people. He's spoken openly. There's a great interview with the Athletic FC podcast, which I highly recommend if you're interested. He talked about empathy, talked about trust, talked about culture, all being central to performance. And at Strasbourg, that has translated into some looser scheduling, minimal punitive rules, and an emphasis on responsibility rather than enforcement of rules. Players are trusted. The staff is multicultural by design. The discipline comes through buy-in, not through fines and punishment. That approach fits Chelsea's squad profile. Maresca's final lineup was the youngest in the Premier League this season. Chelsea are leaning into youth harder than anyone else right now, and having a manager who I think is being very intentional about adjusting how he functions to current players, which, look, are different than players 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30 years ago. The way you manage them, the way you coach them, and this is just a leadership thing. This is even beyond sports, to be honest. This is how you organize a business. You have to treat people differently than maybe leaders could in the past. The leaders and coaches and managers who are doing that are the ones who are going to be successful with younger talent. Look, there's real questions about this one. Rossignol has never managed in the Champions League. He's not handled the Premier League spotlight. But Chelsea appear comfortable with taking those risks here because they think the structure will carry the load. It's not Chelsea looking for someone who has been there and done that and maybe lost a job somewhere else and is looking for another opportunity. This is Chelsea choosing the fit of what they want in their overall strategy as opposed to chasing a name. I'm intrigued. It's not done yet. We'll see if it gets done. He will not be in place for this weekend. we'll see when this all gets finalized. And look, there are folks at Strasbourg in France, fans of the club, who are frustrated because this just goes to show the power of the multi-club ownership situations where there is a top team in, if it's a pyramid, if it's a hierarchy, whatever you want to call it, there's a top team. And that team is the one who's going to get served more than anybody else. This would be bad for Strasbourg to lose Rossignol at this point, but looking more and more likely. Let's go to Africa. The group stage is done at AFCON and the African Cup of Nations and now moves into the knockouts. 87 goals across 36 matches, over 729,000 fans through the gates. And it's a tournament that's had a lot of great attacking quality, but also some defensive discipline. 5 teams conceded just 1 goal in the group stage. Nigeria scored 8, the most of anyone. Tanzania made history by advancing with 2 points as one of the best third-place teams. Saturday, the knockout round starts in the round of 16. The headline matchup on Saturday is Senegal versus Sudan. Senegal, 14 straight AFCON matches without a loss. They've already played Sudan 4 times in 2025 across competitive fixtures. They have not lost in any of those. Familiarity won't be an issue here. Sadio Mane, he continues to define tournaments for Senegal, directly involved in 17 AFCON goals since 2010. Now, Senegal will be without Kalidou Koulibaly due to suspension after his red card in the group stage finale opens the door for Moussa Niakate to step in. Injuries for Senegal are easing a little bit. Iliman Ndiaye and Lamine Camara are expected back in training. Senegal have depth. Sudan, they don't. Just getting to this stage is a marker of progress for them. We'll see if they can keep this one competitive. Mali, they face Tunisia in the other match on Saturday. Fine margins defining this one. Mali, they drew all 3 group stage matches. They did not score in the first half once. Tunisia remain one of AFCON's most reliable teams, reaching the quarterfinals in 5 of their last 7 appearances. At the top of the list of teams that have made the round of 16, Morocco and Nigeria are the 2 favorites, in my opinion. Morocco, their rise is now being talked about globally, not just regionally. We've had this conversation on soccer over there. I think they need to get to the final 8 of the summer's World Cup to really take their place among the elite in the world right now. Spain head coach Luis de la Fuente, he openly cited Morocco as a legitimate World Cup contender, pointing to their depth, their youth development, the players' presence in elite leagues. This is a Morocco team at home who has to deal with a lot of pressure, but looks like they have the talent and the depth to see it through. Nigeria is going to push them. Other teams are going to push them. The group stage was about setting the table. Now AFCON becomes about the execution and getting things done when it matters. Let's go to Paris. It's been 34 years, but Paris finally gets a top-flight men's derby again. PSG will host Paris FC on Sunday. Geography alone makes this one interesting. PSG's Parc des Princes and Paris FC's Stade Jean-Bouin are separated by 44 meters. It's across the street. That's it. On the field, this is a mismatch. PSG defending French and European champions, even if they're second right now behind Lyon, and already have more league losses than all of last season combined. Even with that, they're still really, really good. Paris FC, newly promoted. They're 14th in the table. They're missing their top scorer, Ilan Kebal, who's away at AFCON. But the significance of this isn't about the balance between the two. It's the context. Paris FC are now backed by the Arnault family of LVMH fame. PSG, they remain bankrolled by Qatar Sports Investments. For the first time in decades, Paris has 2 clubs with serious financial backing. Now, in the past, Paris FC and PSG were once part of the same entity before they split in the early 70s. Other challengers in Paris, like Matra Racing, they flickered briefly, they vanished. PSG stood alone for a long, long time as the standard bearer in the top flight from Paris. But that isolation may be ending, and not just because of Paris FC. Just over the horizon is Red Star. They're pushing for promotion from the second division. They're a working class club, deeply rooted in some of the neighborhoods that maybe PSG and Paris FC aren't necessarily looking at as much. This club, Red Star, was founded by Jules Rimet himself, the former president of FIFA, who really brought the World Cup to us. back in the 1920s when it came together for the 1930 edition. You can hear more about that on a Atlanta Soccer flashback over off the woodwork at 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Sunday, it's not a rivalry yet because Paris FC and PSG haven't really met each other very often, but it feels like the reopening of something soccer in Paris has missed for decades. Let's go to Italy. Serie A, they opened the new year tighter than any other major league in Europe, 4 points separating the top 5 of Inter, Milan, Napoli, Roma, and Juventus. Inter lead the way, 4-match winning run. They remain the league's top scorers. Lautaro Martinez has 9 goals. He's the difference maker. Milan 1 point back, unbeaten in 16 league matches. Napoli 2 points back. They head to Lazio. Antonio Conte faces former Napoli boss Maurizio Sarri. Conte's impact is showing, particularly in the revival of players like Scott McTominay and Rasmus Højlund. Højlund has scored 6 league goals, 4 in his last 3 matches. Roma remain in the mix. They've had some recent stumbles. Gianpiero Gasperini has them defensively elite. They've only given up 11 goals all season. Juve, they haven't been consistent, but they're only 1 point behind Roma. They're absolutely still in the mix. The other end, the relegation picture starting to crystallize a little bit. Fiorentina, they're at the bottom. If you believe they'll stay there, they have the talent to not be there, but they're there. Pisa, Verona, Genoa, and Lecce, they're all looking ahead to a very important January window. Nothing settled. Nothing will be given. It's going to be a fun ride the rest of the way in Italy. Let's come back to the States. Some quick hits around MLS and the Americas. Tadeo Allende, he is drawing heavy interest, and not just from Miami. River Plate, they had a $2.5 million bid for 50% of his pass rejected by Celta de Vigo. They want closer to €6 million. And according to reports out of Argentina, Inter Miami, they are still chasing. Austin FC is chasing. And Atlanta United's name came up in the conversation around Tadeo Allende. We'll see if there's any smoke to that. I have not heard anything like that anywhere else, but that is out there, so stay tuned. Also out there right now, Harvey Elliott. Charlotte FC are prepared to offer a long-term loan short-term loan through the summer of 2026. If Elliott returns early from Aston Villa due to limited minutes, that's according to Fabrizio Romano. James Rodriguez, he is leaving León, and Columbus Crew are emerging as a suitor after some preliminary talks, according to reports. Inter Miami, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, are tracking Matko Miljevic, the U.S. men's national team midfielder, previously with Montreal. No formal offer has been submitted as of yet. And according to reports out of Germany, Kai Wagner is close to a move from Philadelphia to Birmingham City in the championship. Portland Timbers, according to Tom Bogert, finalizing a deal for Australian center back Alex Bonetic. On SDH AM this morning, you'll be catching this on demand more than likely. Nino Torres, Nico Moreno are going to join in the second hour of the show. We'll see if Nico's got any updates on any of those stories in the domestic side of things from his sources, and always a good time catching up with Nino and Nico. That's the fully loaded hour in hour number 2 of SDH AM this morning. Let's bounce around the refill, a wide range of news from all over the world. Sunderland, they extended their home unbeaten run to 10 matches, scoreless draw against Manchester City. Liverpool, scoreless draw with Leeds. Milan, they have added Nicholas Füllkrug on loan from West Ham, could feature this weekend. Brighton, they have agreed to bring back Pascal Gross from Borussia Dortmund. Aston Villa have signed young Brazilian winger Alisson from Grêmio. Celtic added former LA Galaxy fullback Julian Araujo on loan. João Cancelo, he's pushing for a European return. Inter are one of the clubs monitoring it, as is Barcelona. Cancelo currently with Al Hilal, pushing his agent to get him back into a top European team, and there's a line of teams interested. Giacomo Raspadori nearing a loan move to Roma from La Liga. We'll see if that one can get done. West Ham accelerating talks for former NYC striker Tati Castellanos from Lazio. West Ham need some goal scoring. They need a feisty Argentine who might help them. Christian Benteke, contract option declined at DC United. He is headed to Al Wahda in the United Arab Emirates, where he has lived for the last couple of years in the offseason. Gabigol, Gabriel Barbosa, he is set to return to Santos on loan from Cruzeiro. Gabigol and Neymar leading the line for Santos this season. That could get really interesting. He hasn't really played a whole lot under Chichi at Cruzeiro. We'll see if Gabigol can get things going again. There have been links to Major League Soccer for Gabigol as well. Thiago Fernandez departed Vélez for Villarreal contract. He did not sign a new contract at Vélez, the young 21-year-old, highly thought of. He posted a pretty public and pretty pointed farewell criticizing the leadership at Vélez and some of the, I think, disjointedness of it about he had an offer in front of him, but it kind of took forever to get it done, and then one of the people in the leadership group told him not to sign it, and the others didn't really back him, and so he ended up letting his contract run out, which isn't all that typical in South America. A lot of guys will sign a new deal so their club can get a transfer fee. Thiago Fernandez said, no, not going to do that. He is headed to Villarreal on a free, it appears. London City Lionesses finding life difficult in the Women's Super League. They have named Eder Maestre as their head coach. The Spaniard is taking over in London. We'll see if that can right the ship a little bit. And one more out of Spain. Sergio Ramos is reportedly exploring a bid to not return to Sevilla as a player, but to buy the club. There had been links to an American consortium for a while, but now it looks like Sergio Ramos is going to front a consortium of his own to buy the club that he started his career at. Very, very interesting. I want to see if Sergio Ramos plays somewhere this spring as well. He was talking at one point about trying to get back into the Spanish national team. I don't see that happening for the World Cup. But he's still got time. He's still got legs in him. I think he can still play at a good level. We saw it in Liga MX with Monterrey. Curious to see what's next for him on the field. It looks like off the field, he's got some big plans going right now as well. That'll do it for the Friday edition. We've got derbies returning. We've got knockout rounds beginning, title races tightening, and looks like a new leader headed to London and Chelsea. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the matches. I'll be back on Monday morning to sort through what mattered and what it all means next on a new edition of the Morning Espresso, brought to you by our friends at Oglethorpe University. Have a great weekend, y'all.